Like,
I don't know why he would. We always taught him to, if you go with a group, you stay with a group. Yes, sir. So he knew to stay with his group. So why would he split from his group?
The boat left without him. 8 miles of open Gulf water between Horn Island and the Mississippi coast. No dockmaster, no ranger station, no phone signal strong enough to matter. No way back unless someone came for you. And somewhere in a 90-minute window that nobody has been able to explain, a young man who had followed his father's most important rule every single day of his 18-year life simply wasn't there when the boat was ready to go. No argument, no goodbye. No explanation that holds up under pressure. Just a stretch of sand, a July sun starting its descent, and a gap in the story that grows wider the longer you look at it. And then there's the phone. The phone that reached his mother before it ever reached investigators. The phone she opened within the 24-hour window, when the content should still have been there, and found nothing where there should have been something. This is the case of Nolan Wells, and the deeper you go, the less the story adds up. If you're just finding this channel, welcome. Drop your city and state in the comments right now. I want to know where in the country you're watching from. Are you in bed? On your couch? Is it late where you are? Tell me. And if cases like this are what you came here for, hit that subscribe button before we go any further, because this one is far from over and you do not want to miss what comes next. Nolan Wells was 18 years old. He was heading into his first season of college football at Southwest Mississippi Community College, and the 4th of July felt like the last real breath of summer before everything shifted into schedules, early morning practices, and the structured grind of being a student athlete. He was exactly the kind of young man that coaches love and communities rally around. Quiet, in the way that confident people are quiet. Not because he had nothing to say, but because he understood when words were necessary and when they weren't. His father, Elmore Wells, had raised him with intention. Not the kind of parenting that hands a kid rules and hopes they stick, but the kind that explains why the rules exist until the child no longer needs the explanation, until the rule becomes instinct. There was one rule above all others. Elmore had said it so many times that Nolan could have recited it in his sleep. If you go out with a group of 5, you come back with all 5. Not most of the group, not 4 out of 5. All 5, every time, no exceptions. Elmore would say later, in front of cameras, his voice measured and deliberate, that Nolan had never once pushed back on that rule. Never questioned it, never argued it, never treated it like something that applied to everyone else and not to him. For 18 years, by every account his father could give, that rule held. It became the kind of thing Nolan simply carried, the way a person carries their own name. Christine Wells, his mother, had spent that 4th of July evening in Ocean Springs without tracking the clock too closely. When you have an 18-year-old son spending the holiday with a group of friends he's known for years, on a trip they've made before, on a weekend built for exactly that kind of freedom, you don't sit by the window watching for headlights. You let the evening go. You trust the people he's with and the son you raised. An evening running long is not unusual. It is not alarming. It is just summer. Horn Island sits 8 miles off the Mississippi Gulf Coast as part of the Gulf Islands National Seashore. It was deliberately left undeveloped. No facilities, no running water, no staff station on the island itself, no shelter beyond whatever the tree line offered. The only way in or out was by private boat. For the group of young men who made this crossing that morning, the island was familiar. They had done this before. They launched the boat, crossed the water, and spread out along the northern shore near the western tip, where the beach widened and the Gulf stayed calm enough to swim, fish, and do exactly what people along the Gulf Coast do on the 4th of July. It was ordinary in the best possible way. Nolan was last confirmed to have been seen at 3 o'clock that afternoon. Blue swim trunks, no shirt, sunglasses. That image, 18 years old, standing on that beach in the July heat, is the last confirmed picture anyone has of him alive. That was 3 p.m. By 4:30, the boat was preparing to make the return crossing. A mechanical issue with the bilge pump had cut the day shorter than planned. The group began gathering. Nolan was not among them. 1 hour and 30 minutes. 90 minutes between the last time anyone confirmed seeing him and the moment the boat was ready to leave. 90 minutes on an island 8 miles from the mainland, with no way to call for help, no way to flag down passing traffic, no infrastructure of any kind. 90 minutes that, to this day, have never been fully accounted for in any public statement made by anyone who was there. The boat made the crossing. Nolan was not on it. No one outside the friend group realized anything was wrong for hours. Christine spent the rest of the evening the way she had spent the beginning of it, the way parents of 18-year-olds spend summer holiday evenings when their children are out with people they trust. And then, around 11 p.m., her phone rang. One of Nolan's friends was on the other end. Christine would say later that she knew something was wrong before the caller said a single word. Nolan's friends did not typically call her directly. That detail alone told her everything she needed to brace for. Around the same hour, Warren, the son of a local judge and one of the young men who had been on the island, contacted the United States Coast Guard. He reported that Nolan had not returned with the group. The Coast Guard logged the call. Their assessment was that the situation did not require an immediate response. The report was received. The response did not come that night. Elmore learned what had happened in pieces. That is one of the particular cruelties of a moment like this. Not receiving information all at once in a way the mind can process and respond to, but absorbing it slowly, detail by detail, until the full picture assembles itself, and by then, it is already too late to unknow any of it. When he sat in front of cameras for the first time, Elmore began with the rule. Not with anger, not with accusations, with the rule he had taught his son. Because for Elmore, every question in this case flows from that one point. Nolan Wells did not break that rule. Not in 18 years. And the explanation for why the 4th of July was different has not been given to him yet. Now here is where the story stops being straightforward. Here is where the details begin pulling against each other in ways that cannot be explained away. The last conversation Nolan is confirmed to have had was with a young woman on the island. 2 accounts exist of what was said during that conversation. They are not slightly different. They are not 2 people remembering the same thing from different angles. They are directly, irreconcilably opposite. The young woman told investigators that Nolan said he was heading back to the boat. That was his stated intention, according to her. Specific, clear, and direct. He was going back. But the friends who were on that boat gave a different account entirely. According to them, Nolan told them he wanted to stay behind. He wanted to keep talking with her. He chose to remain on the island. 2 accounts, the same window of time, the same few minutes of conversation. Both cannot be true. One person in that exchange is remembering it accurately, and one is not. Attorney Ben Crump, who represents the Wells family, addressed this directly and on the record. One account is truthful, he said, and one is not. Think about what that means. This is not a disputed detail from somewhere in the middle of the day. This is the last known moment anyone spoke to Nolan Wells. The final minutes before the 90-minute gap that nobody can explain. And the 2 available accounts of what he said point in opposite directions, which means that somewhere in those few minutes of conversation is the actual truth of what Nolan intended, and someone involved in this case is not telling it. Which account do you believe? I'm asking you directly. Drop your answer in the comments right now, because I genuinely want to know where you stand after hearing both sides. And we are not even to the phone yet. Before we get there, because what happened with that phone is the detail that changed how this entire family looks at this investigation, hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it genuinely helps this channel keep covering cases that deserve the kind of attention Nolan's family is still fighting for. Okay, the phone. Christine Wells did not wait for law enforcement to locate her son's phone. She used Life 360, the family tracking application, and she followed the signal through the night. The signal did not lead her to the island. It led her to a home on the mainland, the residence of one of the young men who had been on the trip, the young man who owned the boat. She went there. She retrieved Nolan's phone herself, before any investigator had touched it, before any forensic protocol had been applied to it, before law enforcement had formally taken custody of it. She brought it home. Then she and her sister went through it. This matters. They were still within the 24-hour window. On Snapchat, content that has not been manually deleted typically remains accessible within that window. Nolan used Snapchat the way his generation uses it, consistently, habitually, as a record of daily life. If he had been on that island on the 4th of July, there should have been something there. A photo, a video, a story, some evidence that his phone had been in his hands that day, the way it was in his hands every other day. There was nothing, not a single piece of content from that day. No saved images. No video, no stories, nothing that placed him on that island, nothing from the boat ride out, nothing from the beach, nothing from a holiday that should have produced exactly the kind of content an 18-year-old posts without thinking. Whatever should still have been recoverable within that window was gone. The account was empty in the places it should not have been empty. And here is the question that does not have an answer yet. Who had that phone between the time Nolan was last seen at 3 o'clock and the time Christine located it at the boat owner's home that night? What happened during those hours? And what happened to the content that should still have been there? The sheriff's office has since formally requested the phone for forensic extraction. That request is active. The phone has not yet been fully processed publicly. But the fact that the family had it first, that Christine retrieved it before investigators, that she and her sister searched it before any forensic protocol was applied, those are facts the investigation will have to account for. Now there is a third thread, and it requires careful handling because the internet moved fast on this one, and fast is not the same as accurate. Nolan's closest friend, someone who personally knew him and was connected to his life, confirmed that some kind of verbal disagreement did occur on the island that day. That is corroborated. That is not speculation or rumor. It comes directly from someone who knew Nolan and was willing to say it on record. A disagreement happened. That much is established. Then a video began circulating online. It spread quickly, the way things spread when a case captures public attention, and people are looking for something concrete to attach to the story. The claim that went with it was that the footage showed the disagreement, that it was evidence of the confrontation that took place on the island before Nolan disappeared. It moved through social media fast enough that many people accepted it as documentation of what had happened. The person who filmed it said publicly that this claim is not accurate. The footage, according to the person who recorded it, shows no confrontation at all. It was filmed for an entirely unrelated reason and only became attached to this case after the fact. Someone saw it, made a connection that was not there, and the internet did what the internet does. It repeated the connection until it hardened into something people treated as fact. So let's be precise about what is actually confirmed. A verbal disagreement on the island is confirmed by someone who knew Nolan personally. The video that spread online is not confirmed to be documentation of that disagreement by the person who filmed it. Those are two separate facts. The disagreement is real. The video is not evidence of it. Keep those two things separated, because in cases like this one, conflating them does real damage to the pursuit of actual answers. Now let's talk about what the family did next, because it tells you everything about how much confidence remained in the local process. Through Ben Crump, the Wansley family raised what he described as a serious and specific trust issue with how the local investigation had been handled. They did not simply express frustration and move on. They arranged for a second independent examination, conducted in Washington, D.C., by an examiner with no ties to Jackson County or its law enforcement structure, an outside set of eyes, a separate process, removed from the jurisdiction entirely. Colin Kaepernick, through his organization Know Your Rights Camp, helped fund that examination. Tyler Perry separately covered the cost of Nolan's funeral. Two public figures, neither of whom had any prior personal connection to this family, chose to attach their names and their resources to this case. That is not a small thing. People with that kind of public profile do not quietly back causes they are not certain deserve it. Their involvement reflects something. It reflects a judgment, made by people who evaluated what they saw, that this family deserved better than what the process had initially offered them. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office has maintained its official position throughout. This is a death investigation, not a homicide investigation. Officials have stated more than once, clearly and on record, that they have not found evidence of a crime. That remains the department's formal classification. The state's autopsy has been completed, but the full report has not been released to the public. Toxicology results are still pending, which means that until that report becomes available, there is no officially confirmed cause of death. The department has also stated publicly that it is actively reviewing the video that circulated online and has formally requested Nolan's phone for forensic extraction. The investigation, by the department's own account, remains open and active. That is the official position. The family's position is that the official position is not enough. Not yet. Elmore has been careful. In every interview he has given since the day his son did not come home, he has not claimed to know exactly what happened on that island. He has not pushed a specific theory. He has not made accusations he cannot support. He has been more restrained than most people would be capable of being in his position, and that restraint makes what he has said all the more impossible to dismiss. What he has said is this: he raised a son who followed that rule. Every time, 18 years without a single exception. He raised a young man who internalized that rule so completely that it was no longer something he thought about. It was something he simply did. The way you look both ways before you cross a street. The way you lock the door when you leave the house. You don't deliberate, you do it. And Elmore cannot reconcile, has never been able to reconcile, the version of his son he raised with the version of events where Nolan simply decided, on a holiday afternoon on an island 8 miles from home, to break the one rule that had never been broken. There is a particular kind of grief in that. Not the ordinary grief of loss, which is already the worst thing a parent can endure, but the specific, relentless grief of a parent who did everything correctly and still could not protect their child, who taught the rule, who raised a son willing to carry it, who watched that son grow into exactly the kind of young man they had hoped for, and then who woke up one morning and were told that none of it was enough, that something happened anyway, in a window of time no one can explain, for reasons no one has yet been willing or able to articulate. That grief does not rest. It searches. It keeps asking the same question over and over until someone gives it an answer that holds. So here is where everything stands. The investigation remains open. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office has not closed this case. They are actively reviewing the video that circulated online. They have formally requested Nolan's phone for forensic extraction, and that process is still underway. Toxicology results are pending, meaning that the official cause of death has not yet been confirmed and released publicly. The independent examination arranged by the family through Ben Crump has been completed in Washington, D.C., but the full details of its findings have not been publicly confirmed. Two central questions remain entirely without answers. The first, why do the two accounts of Nolan's final conversation point in opposite directions? One person says he told her he was heading back to the boat. A separate group says he told them he wanted to stay. Same window, same conversation. Two versions that cannot both be true. Someone in that exchange is not accurately representing what was said. Ben Crump has said it plainly. One account is truthful, one is not. Until investigators can determine which one, the actual truth of what Nolan intended in those final known minutes remains unknown. The second, why did Nolan's phone reach his family missing content that should still have been there? Christine located it herself using Life 360. She retrieved it from the boat owner's home before law enforcement had custody of it. She and her sister searched it within the 24-hour window. Snapchat content that should have been recoverable was not there. Who had that phone during the hours between 3 p.m. and the moment Christine located it? What occurred during that window? And what happened to what should have been on it? Those two questions are not peripheral. They are not background detail. They sit at the center of this case, and everything else orbits around them. The conflicting accounts, the missing content, the independent examination, the trust issues raised by the family, the involvement of Ben Crump, the decision by two well-known public figures to attach their names and resources to a case that should have been far more straightforward from the beginning. The island gave no shelter. The boat offered no backup once the crossing was made. The 90-minute gap offered no explanation. The phone offered silence where there should have been a record. The two accounts offered a contradiction that has not been resolved. The family offered a second examination because the first process did not hold their confidence. The sheriff's office offered an active investigation that continues. And Elmore Wansley offered the same question, the only one he has been asking since the moment he learned his son was not coming home. Why would Nolan have split from the group? He never did. Not once. Not in 18 years. And the one time the story says he did, nobody can tell Elmore why. What is the one detail from today that you cannot stop turning over in your mind? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And in a case like this, the more eyes and minds we have on the details, the harder it becomes for anything to get quietly buried. If you've been here with me this whole time and you haven't subscribed yet, do it right now. Cases like Nolan's are exactly what this channel exists for. Real families, real questions, and a commitment to staying on the story until someone gives them an answer that actually holds up. New information on this case could surface any day, and when it does, you will not want to hear about it from someone else first. The case of Nolan Wansley is open. The questions are unanswered. The family is not done asking, and neither are we.